Welcome back. Indeed, this is News Check. And of course, the second hour, as I had told you earlier, is that we will be delving into the matters BBI, and especially when it comes to the church's views. Of course, yesterday the church was well represented, but we will be getting deeper into that a little bit later. My name is Ben Troy Njoe, and Lucy Mwaura is our sign language interpreter for this hour. And right now I'm joined by Bishop David Thagana, who is the Bishop for Glory Outreach Assembly, that is GOA. Karibu sana, Bishop.
Asante sana, Bwana Joy.
And I hear you wear other hats, kindly.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Bishop David Munyere Thagana. I am the founder and the presiding bishop of Glory Outreach Assembly, GOA, which God helped me to start 29 years ago, while I was a teacher at Karioma Girls High School. And then God called me and I stopped teaching and focused on that. So, and I am also the General Secretary of the Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Churches of Kenya. And I am also the International Director for International Leadership Institute in the English and Swahili-speaking countries in Africa. Okay. Yes.
Oh, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Of course, when we saw the church being well represented yesterday at the Bomas of Kenya, of course, we talked about the BBI being a remedy, so it reminded me of the Esther Wahome song, Kuna Dawa, perhaps a remedy to what is ailing the country. You did watch the launch yesterday, right?
Yes, I did.
And before we go to your views, I remember Bishop Ominde, David Ominde, did talk about a lot of issues, but first things first, let's listen in to what he had to say yesterday in regards to the BBI.
A religious community, our greatest concern for the nation is peace. That we live in a peaceful environment where everybody is able to do that which they would want to do without interference, without fear of anything happening to them. And so, over the years, we have tried our best to be peace brokers for this country. I was privileged in 2017, after the contested results of the elections, that I was part of a small team that from the diplomatic community, from the business sector, from civil society, and the religious communities under the leadership of the former U.S. Ambassador Robert Godek. For several months, we engaged in a shuttle diplomacy, committed to seeing this country get back to normalcy. Sadly, both sides were extremely hard. And I can tell you it was one of the most difficult responsibilities that I've ever had. It therefore came as a great and pleasant surprise when Your Excellency and Right Honorable Prime Minister stood on the steps of Harambee House in the famous handshake. We were delighted that you also spoke of creating a national conversation on issues that bedevil this nation every electoral season. This has been one of our key plans to create a national conversation. In fact, our group was loosely known as National Conversation. Your Excellency, I say all this to let you know that the spirit of national conversation has been with some of us for a very long time, well before BBI. This is because we have believed that unless and until we address the cancer that eats this nation, we will never have enduring peace. To continue with business as usual is to deceive ourselves. It is just a matter of time, and this country will one of these days explode to unquenchable flames. For this reason, we want to unequivocally laud the efforts that have been made by the steering team and by your leadership in addressing these issues. Your Excellency, we, however, have some very serious concerns. In this nation, we have developed a very dangerous tendency of politicizing everything. Even a very important matter as constitution-making gets shrouded in political intrigues. That is why we are finding ourselves with laws that cannot satisfy the desire of the political class, but do not effectively address our national needs and aspirations. It is in this light that I want to plead with our political leaders. Please allow the current process to objectively lay a foundation for the future of this nation. We must therefore remember that the laws you make today will tie your hands and your feet tomorrow. The liberties you take away today will imprison you tomorrow. It is most unfortunate that the politics of our nation is based on divide and rule. Politicians somehow believe that the only way to succeed is to divide us into dichotomous categories of us versus them. Yet, political interests shift rapidly. Between 2017 and 2020, the political formations have changed significantly. In fact, I want to prophesy that it will not be a surprise before 2022 that Dr. William Ruto and Honorable Raila Odinga will be on the same side. It is a fact that no nation has ever become great through division. The Bible is clear that where there is unity, the Lord commands a blessing. A cord of 3 strands cannot be broken. Your Excellency, perhaps it is time that hustlers should pause their hustling for a moment, and the reggae dancers pause their dance for a moment, and join together in a serious Jerusalem dance for the sake of the peace and the unity of this nation. After all, DJ Master KG and his sister remind us that the New Jerusalem is our ultimate home. Finally, Your Excellency, in 2005 and in the 2010 referendum, the church said no because of various major principles. We would like to see this addressed. We have noticed that the pillar of religion and faith seems to be completely missing. Furthermore, the Religious Freedom Bill that was to help the registration of religious groups seems to have been left out. Issues of marriage and family need to be taken care of. Your Excellency, we want to assure you that as a Christian community, after this launch, we are going to review the report and make our position known. If we choose to support it, it will be because we believe it is good for the country. If we find anything contrary, we will call for appropriate amendment. God bless you and thank you for a great work. Amen.
Indeed, that was an extract from yesterday's launch of the BBI report. That was Bishop David Omindo of the Christ is the Answer Ministries. Of course, he was lauded for that short address to the nation and, of course, to the people who had congregated at the Bomas of Kenya. Interesting. Bishop, first things first, what do you make of yesterday's event before you even go to what Omindo had to say yesterday?
Thank you very much, Bwana Joy. I watched the entire event, and I think I must appreciate the fact that we have come to that point where the presentation of the report would be made public, like it was done. That is great. Knowing the process and all the correction of views and the journey that has taken. I also appreciate the fact that the views may have been consolidated into a report, because gathering views from 45 million Kenyans and putting them into something is not an easy thing.
Yes.
Yesterday's, there are a few things that really caught my attention yesterday. One of them was the fact that as a nation, going by the event of yesterday, that we have improved a lot in the culture of listening to each other and tolerating. We have improved on that. Why I say that is everyone who stood and spoke, the other people were willing to listen and responded very well. However, there was that part where that changed, where the deputy president was speaking, and then there was a bit of heckling and kind of telling him to sit down. That was not a good picture, and I think that kind of undermined the entire excitement and harmony of the entire day. And let me say right at the onset of our discussion that it is so important that we learn to listen to each other. It is so important that we tolerate the views of each other, even if they are divergent. And that is a mark of growth. It's a mark of development. It is it's an aspect of democracy. When you listen to me and I listen to you, whether you agree with me or you don't, I think it is in proper decorum. It is important that people allow each other to present their views and say what they're saying. So that part I didn't like. And it left me with some questions also.
Yes.
It left me with the questions as to whether who was invited to that event and why were they invited. Of course, there are those who it was a good picture to see various representation of Kenya, right from the political divide to the different aspects, economic, speaking on behalf of the various constituents that they stand for.
Yes.
But the heckling and the shouting left me thinking there might have been some who may have come just to do that with the self-interest.
Yes, okay, you are entitled to your opinion. Now, I remember that, of course, you've heard even people who really love that part where he talked about the BBI reggae perhaps should be toned down for now, and the hustling should also be toned down so that we may have the Jerusalem dance. Of course, I'm still learning the steps, but do you believe that perhaps what exactly the bishop was talking about is so open for every Kenyan to see that, of course, there are cracks already that have culminated into what you're talking about heckling yesterday?
Yes, the Kenyans are intelligent people. And of course, even the dumb ones can see because the cracks are so huge.
Yes.
And but again, going to what I liked yesterday, I also liked the fact that His Excellency the President and the deputy openly spoke. I like that part.
Yes.
Because for long, Kenyans have asked questions. What happened between the people that we elected, these leaders? So speaking that open conversation, and I think if we move towards that direction, I think that would be good, where we actually get to know everything, if we can know everything that goes on behind the scenes. I totally agree with Bishop David Oginde that for us to be able to have a conversation with sobriety, it is extremely important that each side tones down their dance, whatever it is. Whether it is the dance of the reggae, whether it is the dance of the hustlers, whatever the dance is, it is extremely important that be toned down, because once we tone them down, we might be able to find a common ground.
Yes.
His proposal that the common ground might be the Jerusalem dance is a good suggestion.
Yes.
But we could still meet in a common ground where we just agree as Kenyans. We have
divergent views, but at least at the end of the day, we are dancing the same dance.
We could dance the Kenya one, Kenya unity, Kenya one.
Yes.
That's because all of us definitely want one Kenya. We want unity. We all want to move to the same direction.
Yes.
But if we start these conversations on this important document, the way things have been, whereby if I speak about the poor people, people interpret to mean that I am on the side of the hustlers.
Yes,
I belong to the hustlers. If I speak about the top leadership and maybe challenge their way of doing things, people interpret that probably I belong to the other side.
Yes.
I think we must drop those positions if we are going to have a sober conversation and a sober dialogue, and be able to look at exactly what are the issues that we are looking at. What are the issues? Because if we don't do that, this debate can easily get lost in the cracks of the politics that we are having. And it is true that we elected these leaders, and I think that's where normally we have a problem of balancing. The fact that we elected leaders speak on behalf of the people who elected them. That's a fact, and we cannot dispute that. But then we must also be able to distinguish between what are their personal views and their political ideologies with what they speak on behalf of the people. We don't want to go into issue of a document like constitution or on the basis of who speaks louder than the other, on the basis of you belong to this, you belong to that.
Yes.
We would want to go into that. And this is, and I like the first statement that Bishop Ogide said, that we have always as a church wanted peace.
Yes.
We stand and come from a position of peace. And we want peace for everyone. We want peace for every politician. We want peace for the hustlers. We want peace for the Lege people. Of course, we might not sing Lege ourselves as a church, because we don't subscribe to that. But if we want to go the Lege the way, then we go Lege versus gospel, which again is still division. Because if the question is between Lege and gospel,
a common song, right?
We should a common song, yes.
And he talked about something very important, and especially now that we are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic in the country and of course around the globe, talking about the family setup. A lot of issues have not been addressed. That is exact words, that a lot of issues, family issues, have not been addressed in the BBI when it comes to family setup.
It is very important that it comes out clearly that the document we received yesterday is a framework. It forms a good framework for conversations and discussions. It is not an ad in itself.
Yes.
Because there are so many views, so many things that are not in that document. Some have been said, like for a church, for example, right, all the way from the time of when there was the clamor for the multi-party democracy, and we went ahead talking, giving our views and our position. The very first, I remember those days I was a teacher at Karema Girls, and I was requested to go around correcting views, though I was a teacher, from the people. What people would like right from the initial stage, so that we could now make the constitution.
Yes.
And people were clear, the church was clear, that to the people that I met and everywhere else, that we are very interested in the family matters. Because the family is the foundation of the nation. And the family is the building block for a strong nation. If the family is strong, we'll have a stronger ward, we'll have a stronger constituency, we'll have a stronger county, we'll have a strong nation. So it is extremely important that the values, the family values that we have always spoken about in the history of this document, that they be looked into. And when Bishop Ogide speaks there and he says that these conversations are not new, they were there. It is true, because we have sat in many meetings. And it's a bit disappointing to see that the views of the church are left out. Nothing is mentioned about those family values that we have always talked about. The ethos that was brought out, they are not clear in that. I think they were ignored. Issues of marriage, issues of that touches on our freedom of worship specifically when it comes to the registration and the recognition of the churches.
And before we go to that legislation, perhaps because of course that will lie squarely on the arms of government, what would you have wanted factored in when it comes to family setup and the values that you're talking about?
We would have wanted, and we have been clear from the beginning, that the family needs to be clearly defined and protected from all the Western and Western influences and ideologies that talks like such as abortion and things like that. We have listened to things said that are never in our African culture at all, leave alone the Christian.
Yes.
We would want issues of abortion to clearly be brought out, yes, whereby the child is protected, and the definition of a human being be clearly defined from the moment of conception.
Yes.
So that we do not appear to believe that the human being is the one, is only the one who has been born and walking. We would want to see those rights of the unborn protected. We would want to see very clear bills on marriage and defining all that. And we would want to, we have even seen where the discussion on marriage has gone to the extreme. And when we look at it clearly, we cannot find it in our African traditional society. Who should marry who and how,
yes,
and all those things. Why would they be ignored? And yet they form a fundamental part of the human society. Everyone, including those politicians, come from a family,
yes,
and they go back to a family,
yes,
which is therefore important that the family foundations,
yes,
be clearly looked into.
Indeed. And still on that, do you believe the church, she talked about we as the church, we're going to read the document, and of course those things that have not been factored in, we would want to have a conversation. That was the exact words. They're coming out strongly. We think the church will come out more strongly than it did when we were passing the 2010 constitution, because as you rightfully mentioned, the church was really against issues concerning abortion. But the constitution was still passed. Do you think the church this time around will come out strongly to object things that they feel are not representing what we are talking about, family values?
The church has always come out strongly. Even then,
yes,
we did come out, and we voted. The fact that we may not have found our way, or that may not have happened. The church is one institution that never gives up easily. That's why we are again now, yes, saying that now we have the opportunity, and we will speak and we will come out. And we have already started speaking that because we cannot miss this opportunity when we have already spent too much time in historically speaking about things that are fundamental to the church and to the religious views and the religious community. We will be out and we will take a position also. And that is why I said earlier that I think we need to be very objective, so that when we raise something that is not there currently in the document that was presented, it should not be taken that we are opposing the document. I think that needs to be very clear. And since it should not be taken that we are opposing the document, it should be taken that we need these things put there because the church represents over 80% of the Kenyan population.
Yes. And
some of them may not speak as the politicians do. They may not even have the forum to speak as they do. But that does not mean that they don't hold the view. You can prevent people from saying something, but you can't prevent them from holding the view that they do.
Yes.
So we will speak. We are looking at the document, and we believe strongly, and that was a good thing yesterday also. I think probably, in my view, probably 80% of the speakers yesterday acknowledged the fact that we need to read the document. I liked that. Yes. Speaker after speaker added their statement with acknowledging that we need to read the document. And I think that is so important. But we also, what I have not heard, and this is again a concern, a big concern for the church, is the issue of the civic education. That has not come out very clearly. How are we going to educate the Wanjiku
Yes.
down in the ground. This voluminous document, written in legal language and a language that is not Kenyan, how shall we incorporate the person on the ground, the local person? That's a huge concern that the church has, and the church believes that the best institution or people to be entrusted with civic education, it is the church. Why? Because they are non-partisan. We want good for everyone.
Yes.
As Bishop Oginde said yesterday, we seek the peace and the unity of the entire country. Every person from every political divide converges at the church. That is the only place that they are welcome. It is only in the church where you will find all those political ideologies sitting together, listening to the same person, praying together. So we believe strongly that we need to hear more, and that does not seem to come out there. Civic education, who is responsible for that? What is the role of the church? And
you would want the church to be more involved,
yes, and more empowered.
Yes.
Currently, and in the history, we have done civic education on our own as a church because we want every person to participate in the national development and decision making. But how about recognizing the importance of the civic education and recognizing the church as the institution to take it, because we have the networks, we have the goodwill we have from the people, and we have the language, because we get to the people according to the languages they have. That part needs to be, and that is one reason why why when we go down we hear some murmuring of people feeling like they are left out, or you hear them versus us, where them means those who are in the top governance and leadership, and us meaning those who are on the ground, because they are not represented. They are not represented.
Yes.
It is important that the person on the ground be able to hear. When I was part of the correcting of views in Kinangop, when I was a teacher in Karema, those early days when we were gathering the views, I would go to an elderly person in the village who has not been to school, and they would use certain languages to explain what they would want to. For example, they would want to talk about the position of the chief, the area chief, because that is the person they interact with very much. And it would be very difficult to exactly tell that they are saying reduce those powers, because they would use a lot of a language that one would require time to listen. That's why I'm saying the church has that hearing here.
Of course, we are going to be looking at the legislation, as Bishop said, and of course what you said, and also looking at the church, because sometimes it is accused of giving politicians a platform, perhaps to spread hate speech, and especially now that we have a delicate document with us. But before that, hold that thought, we're going to be crossing over to Mombasa, where our reporter is speaking to the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Nurses, Peter Marogo. Over to you, Ann Mboro in Mombasa.
It is indeed a good morning here in Mombasa County. Ben Troy back at Broadcasting House, and we are coming live to you from the Coast Provincial General Hospital, where I will be joined by the Kenya National Union of Nurses Secretary Bwana Peter Marogo, who is just going to tell us exactly what is happening here, because they have a few concerns that they would like to address concerning the COVID-19 measures in this county, together with the delay of salaries for the nurses in Mombasa County. So I'll be joined by Peter Marogo, who is just going to give us exactly what is really happening, because we understand that from Tuesday this week there's been a go-slow of the nurses at the Coast Provincial General Hospital in rendering their services. So karibu sana Bwana Marogo. Maybe you'll just tell us exactly what is really happening concerning your delay of salary payments and the COVID-19 measures, the concerns that you have about them.
Yeah. We had a perennial delay of salaries with Mombasa County. As we know, since May of this year, the county government of Mombasa has not been able to pay salaries at the right time. And as we are speaking, that majority of our members or our workers in Mombasa County have not been paid their salaries. And in the process, we've had a ghost actually from Tuesday last week. And therefore, services have not been going on as usual. And in the process, we've had a surge in number of cases of COVID-19 in Mombasa. And for your information is that the Mombasa County has been deducting statutory deductions and other remittances like loans from our salaries, and they have not been remitting them to the various creditors of the employees of Mombasa County. And in the process, majority of our members have already been listed in the CRB as we speak. And another thing that we also want to talk about is that there is such a number of infections among our health workers. And so far, here in Mombasa, we've been able to lose 2 of our colleagues. Those are nurses. There's a nurse who died here last week, part 1, from Mombasa County government, and then there's another one who also again died yesterday from the private sector. And that tells you that there are so many cases amongst our health workers, and therefore we are asking the national government, the county government of Mombasa, to actually take charge and actually ensure that our members are well protected, especially those who are working in our outpatient and in the wards, because most cases that we are reporting from amongst our health workers is that they are happening in these departments, unlike in the isolation centers. Yeah, we are also calling upon the national government through SRC and the Ministry of Labour actually to declare COVID-19 as an occupational disease, so that we are able to actually seek compensation for our employees or our workers who are dying of COVID-19. So far, COVID-19 is an occupational disease. You don't need to explain further, but it needs to be gazetted. And then now, this will allow us as employees and the union representatives to seek compensation for our health workers. And another thing the national government also should do, we had the president said that they have actually secured an insurance for our health workers who may succumb as a result of attending to patients of COVID-19. But it has not been operationalized. We've so far lost so many health workers, but we've not had any of them being compensated by any insurance company that the government may have engaged. And in the process, we actually are having destitutes in the villages. Those who are dependents of these people who have died, they're actually becoming now destitute because they are no longer getting the daily bread they were getting from their mothers, their fathers who have already died of COVID-19.
So does this mean that you're giving a notice of a strike soon, or what is it exactly?
What we are saying is that we are giving the county government of Mombasa a week to pay the salaries of October. We know September has been paid, but majority of our members have not seen their salaries because there are processes that have not taken place. And in the process, people are unable to go back to work. And we are saying that in the next 1 week, if they are not going to pay salaries, we shall now issue a form of strike notice. And in the going forward, we shall now embark on a strike that will last for many days if the employer is not going to act. And we are calling upon the governor of Mombasa County to take charge of this county, because we have tried to engage his officers and we are not getting a solution, especially on the issue of salaries. If we can get a solution on salaries, then we are good to go. But if we are not going to get salaries of October in the next 1 week, as we project, then we'll now issue a formal strike notice, and then we shall go on strike without giving any regard to COVID-19.
You've talked of concerns about the COVID-19 measures. Maybe you've had the nurses dying, the others in isolation. What exactly do you want the government to do for you people? Because I've also heard that there's a Likoni healthcare center that has been closed down because of the issues of coronavirus.
What I know, Mombasa did so well in the first phase of these infections. We did so well, and we were able to contain the disease even before the national government. Nationally, we could. And I think that we must have down our guard. We must have dropped our guard, and we've allowed now these infections to actually go high, especially in the community and among the health workers, because it's not easier now for us to actually discern who or to detect who is infected. And in the process, we are also getting infected, and we are now going to infect more and more. Patients will be coming to us for treatment. And we are also calling that to the Department of Health to ensure that there is sufficient and the right equipment for our health workers, especially the N95 masks should now be provided to health workers working in outpatient and in the wards, so that we are able to minimize. If all health workers become sick, who's going to take care of the patients? Then that means we will all die of COVID-19. Yeah.
Maybe you could also give us one or two of your concerns about the whole issue.
My name is Franklin Makanga, the Branch Secretary, Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. I want to say that some of the issues that have caused us to be on go slow for the last 7 days is like one, the issue of promotions. this is an issue that we have pursued for the last 2 years, since 2018. And now they are in the process of actualizing the promotions. But I want to tell them that let them speed up the process. And after issuing the letters, let them go ahead and effect those promotions in the payroll, so that our people are able to get what they rightfully deserve. Again, on the issue of salaries, I want to say this. This has been an issue. How do you expect a healthcare worker working for 30 days and you know very well that they have no other business they're doing, but they're coming to work and they're not getting their salary? So I want to say that right now we are hearing, I treat it as a rumor, that they have paid salaries as of September, because our members have not confirmed to us that they have paid. So should they confirm to us that they have paid, they will go back to work only for a few days, because should they delay the payment of October salaries, then wembe ni ule ule. I mean, we cannot continue allowing our people exposed to corona. They are suffering, their families are suffering at the expense of their rights, which is their due wages. Yeah.
Bentry Enjoy, you've heard it from the horse's mouth that they're giving the county of Mombasa a 7-day notice before they give the notice of a strike. So this is all we have for you right now. Back to you in studio, Bentry Enjoy.
So much. Ann Mburu from Mombasa, where she was interviewing two officials, one from the Kenya National Union of Nurses and the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, shedding light on some of the challenges that they are facing, and they would want the county government to address them, including delay in salaries, adequate protection, and of course the promotions that have been nagging not only in Mombasa County but in other counties as well. But of course, Anne will be back with a more comprehensive and detailed report for our subsequent bulletin. In case you're joining us now, this is News Check. I'm Bentry Enjoy, and I'm joined by Bishop David Thagana of the Glory Outreach Assembly, of course, trying to put things into perspective. The day that was, that is the BBI launch yesterday, and on the church's view. Of course, they did say that they are going to read and cross-examine the document before they can give an adequate feedback on the same. But as we have said with the bishop here, is that even in the 2010 constitution, they had issues that they wanted addressed, that the church was really against, and some of the recommendations, of course, were factored in. But this time around, they're talking about there are some things that they have not seen being factored, and especially when it comes to family issues, and they would want to have a keen conversation on the same. Bishop, before we went to Mombasa, indeed, we were talking about the family, the setup, and we talked about a platform. The churches, of course, have been mentioned as one of the places or one of the institutions that gives politicians a chance to propagate negative ethnicity, and that is one of the things that is being addressed, one of the key issues that was being addressed by the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force.
Yes, and rightfully so, we carry the blame for giving the platform, because when the politicians come to the church, they are very much welcome, because the church is meant for everyone. The church is like a hospital where the sick people go so that they can go whole. And if you feel that you are sick in whatever way it is, the church is the right place. It's open. It's like a garage where we take our cars. Even if they are not really not moving, we take them for service. That's why it's called a Sunday service. We go to be serviced so that we can go out loving more, so that we can go out caring more, so that we can go out doing what we are not supposed we should be doing. So it is, we cannot carry the blame for welcoming the politicians into church, because that is the place for everybody. They need to be serviced too. And we believe strongly that the Bible, which is an inspired word of God, that it speaks to everyone at whatever career, whatever position they are. And it's clear there in the scripture, in Hebrews 10:24, when we come there, we are provoked, we are stirred to do good. We go home stirred to speak nicely, to do good, to love, to care, to do whatever we were not doing, to be more humble. So it is right for them to come to church, and it's the right place. The problem, though, is it is wrong to give them the pulpit to speak hate speech or things that not for everyone. Because the churches, again, is open for everyone, regardless of their political ideologies. In that church, somebody is seated there who is who belongs to this party or belongs to the other party or subscribes to the ideologies of this and that. So if the politician stands up and speaks, sometimes you know that we interpret things based on what we hold dear to us. So even if they really didn't mean bad, that's likely to happen. So it's wrong for us to give them that pulpit.
Yes.
However, striking the balance, as I said earlier, the balance that these are elected leaders. They have hundreds of thousands of votes of people who sent them to speak for them.
Yes.
They not only speak for them in parliament, but in their constituency, in the markets. And the church is no exceptional, only that it should not be in the pulpit. They can speak out there, outside there, where everyone can speak. So that is right. But when they speak, we would want to, as a church, we would want to hear the politicians exercise a bit of decorum and be able to speak in a manner that they are accommodative to their views, particularly when they are speaking to people in the church. It is dishonoring, it's disrespectful to speak in a message that would divide the people, regardless of what it is. And even when we come to this BBI, because the church will still remain welcoming, it will still be open for everyone, it would be wrong for anyone to come and criticize another in the church forum.
Indeed, but some have suggested they don't need to do it at the pulpit. They can wait for the service to be over and then perhaps they can speak to their masses outside. But that's a discussion for another day. Let's look at legislation. Bishop had raised the same thing. You also touched on it, but I wanted us to look at it after we had looked at the family ethics and ethos that I talked about in the BBI. The legislation, when it comes to maybe perhaps a keen eye on the churches or religious institutions that are cropping up in the country. Of course, we need a legislation. We can't just, even when you're opening a business, you're supposed to perhaps fill in some forms and give some details on what exactly you will be doing. That is lacking, just as Bishop had talked about, and you also touched on the same.
Yes, and Joy, it's unfortunate that this conversation, we have had it even before, for years and years.
Yes.
And I think it is high time that the church, through this BBI process, if it's going to be relevant in any way to the church, it is a high time that the issues of the registrations of the churches are addressed. We do not, we are not ignorant of the fact that there could be people who congregate and probably they do or speak things that may not be propagated to the public. But we strongly believe that the government has got mechanisms of, just like they do for the limited companies and other companies and other institutions, they have a mechanism of knowing which institution is doing what. There is no reason so far, over all these years that we have been talking about this, there is no reason that has ever been advanced as to why it became so difficult to register churches in this Kenya. Yet, the churches are the ones that hold the moral values of the society. Those same people who want to be registered are the ones who pray for this nation. They are the same platforms where the politicians run when they want the votes. They are the people who take care of the people on the ground. They need to be, it should be easy for any Kenyan to register whatever a church or a gathering or a group that is going to be helping them to propagate their ideologies. And now we have umbrellas. We have umbrellas because initially the question that was being raised was how do we vet, how do we know what they believe and what somebody is going to be teaching. Now we have umbrellas, and those umbrellas, like I said, when I said I am here, I am also representing the Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Christian Churches of Kenya. Those are many churches that are indigenous, that we are under the same umbrella. And I am the General Secretary. And we have a chairman, Bishop Jiriri, and a whole team of leaders. one of our mandate is to vet and to ensure that the people are teaching the right doctrine, that the people are living by the scriptures. So really, it is not right for us to be told that that we'll be vetted, or somebody else is going to supervise us from out there, and this person may not necessarily know anything about the church.
Yes.
We would want the process of registering the churches to become easy. It is right now easier to go to heaven than to register a church, because heaven you just repent.
Yes.
You know the process. Now we don't know what the process is, and yet these are fundamental things to people.
Yes.
We would also want not just to be another society under societies.
Yes.
Because what we have is about faith. We would want that in these bills, the BBI bills, we would want it to be kind of a structure whereby the church interests are protected and safeguarded. And even within the county governments, it is so important that the county governments recognize how the laws of the church in the counties and incorporate them into the administration and leadership, so that our law is not limited to just praying when we have a function, a public function,
yes,
which is important.
Yes.
It is important to pray for that function.
Yes.
But it is, what about incorporating and integrating the church in the counties so that they are part of the advisory, they are part of the protection of the national ethos we are talking about, and of course we are the people with everyone. That's,
Indeed.
yes.
And as we wind up, what should be the role of the church, and especially now, when we have a very delicate document that is supposed to change the lives of everyone in the country? Number one, role of the church has been prayer. Yes. And we have never absconded that responsibility. We continue doing it. Even when the Constitution came out and we found that our interests were not taken care of, we did not withhold prayer. We continued praying. Yes. And you have never seen us in the streets or threatening the way you have seen in Mombasa. They are going to down the tools. Yes. That's what they have told us. Yes. We don't down our tools ourselves. We are probably the only institution that remains sober when everything else goes haywire. Yes. So our role for prayer will continue. And we are grateful that sometimes it takes too long, but we believe in patience. Like when we saw yesterday and saw His Excellency the President and the Deputy smiling, happy, even to the extent of the Deputy standing up and going to say something to him. That to us is answered prayer. Because the people we represent... But you would want to see something better than that. We want to see something better than that. Yes. But that is the result of our prayer. Because the people we represent, who are millions in this country, they have no joy in seeing people looking at each other, away from each other. The faces cannot meet in public meetings. Yet we believe that when leaders are in position, that God put them there because we prayed. So we still believe strongly that His Excellency the President and his deputy that are there leading us because God put them for the time that they are going to be there, because we prayed and we voted. So that's our belief. Yes. So for us to see them smiling, just joking a little bit with each other, that was part of the peak of the moment. And of course, listening to the views of each other, that is so important. So we will continue to pray. That's, you ask me for the law, we'll continue to pray. Right from the top, that there will be more unity. Yes. We want to see more than what we saw yesterday. Yes. But we are grateful for what we saw. We are grateful for even the listening to each other, the divergent views. We also have a role of civic education, yes, which we continue to do without, whether it is entrenched in this BBI or recognized, we still do it. But we would do a better job as a church if it is clearly understood and recognized that the church has the networks, has the people, has the goodwill, has the welfare of the nation at heart. If it is understood that we drive the process as a church for civic education and be funded by the government. We have the law of uniting the leaders, and we continue doing that. And of course we will continue to educate and to speak
we are the voice of reason when everything else goes wrong. So those are our laws.
Thank you.
And we continue doing that.
Indeed, thank you so much, Bishop. That has been Bishop, apologies, Dr. Bishop David Thagana of the Glory Outreach Assembly. Of course, he wears other hats, but powerful words, and especially on the civic education, because a lot of people do look at the church to actually provide a lot. And indeed, before I leave, I see Timothy Kipnusu is on standby for Tamrini, but we have JD Robbie Mkaliwao watching from Homa Bay. Paul Kings, you're tuned in from County 0001, that is Mombasa, watching from Nairobi, Githurai. Robin Onyando, Kolasinach Kolo, and of course a number of your comments, of course. So the youth don't mind about governance, because the 2010 Constitution has everything they are talking about, but no will to implement. That is Nelson Isavwa. The show is good. John from Sona Records in Kisii, thank you so much for watching, and let's continue this conversation via our various social media platform. Third Way Alliance is also issuing its views on the BBI. That is what I leave you with. I'm Ben Troinjwe. Lucy Moura has been our sign language interpreter for this hour. Timothy Kipnusu is coming up next with Tamrini. Good afternoon.
Third Way Alliance Kenya's initiative is a document that speaks to the needs of Mwananchi, hence the acknowledgement by the BBI task force. The Punguza Mizigo Kenya initiative has the interest of Mwananchi at heart, and we know that His Excellency the President, his very able deputy, and the former Prime Minister have the same interest too. That is why they mooted the BBI idea in order to bring the country together so as to enable the national conversation on issues that have beleaguered the country for a long time, especially in matters relating to the electoral cycle. Let that all-inclusive national conversation now begin without leaving anyone behind, as His Excellency the President decreed. The country is in dire need of salvaging, and we have offered a solution in our 10-point Punguza Mizigo Kenya initiative with proposals that will, if adopted, solve a myriad of problems facing the Mwananchi, who have embraced it as evidenced by the number of signatures collected so far. Punguza Mizigo Kenya proposals have given clear solutions to the stated issues amongst many others, and we feel that PMK and the BBI proposals, being the two initiatives currently on the table, could reach a nexus, bringing the two together, hence offering Kenyans a chance to have a robust national conversation regarding relevant amendments to the Constitution, whilst those that require legislation in the BBI report to be canvassed in Parliament if and when the High Court gives directions on the advisory by the Chief Justice, which is a matter we have also thrown in our thoughts in the High Court petition number E302 to be heard by the bench that was recently constituted. 3, we want also to address ourselves on the issue of toxic leadership or politics in the country. Now, during the next 2 years, we look towards a possible referendum and the 2022 general elections that Third Way Alliance Kenya calls upon the political leadership of this country to shun intolerance despite divergent views and opinions, since, as well have witnessed time and time again, it fosters hatred and breeds violence to the nation. Third Way Alliance is concerned that the ongoing political moment on amending the Constitution seems oblivious of the Maraga advisory asking the President to dissolve Parliament. The advisory in itself is already a test of how serious we take our current Constitution and the commitment to give it life through its implementation and strict adherence. As a party, we therefore offer our unsolicited advice to the BBI proponents to consider putting the reggae on hold until the 5-judge bench advises on the legitimacy of the referendum process, in the absence of a legitimate parliament. We are specifically concerned about the rush to pass the referendum bills into law when the real possibility of getting the law rendered unconstitutional in the High Court is very likely, following the Chief Justice David Maraga's advisory. We pray that we find it in ourselves to accommodate each other for a peaceful, all-inclusive, progressive, and democratic Kenya. Mungu aibariki Kenya. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana. Thank you so much, Deputy National Chair and Deputy Organizing Secretary, for reading the statement. Now, as I said, I want to give a summary of this statement. I'll do a summary in English and I'll do a summary in Kiswahili for the benefit of your viewers who understand Kiswahili. What we are saying as a party, we are stakeholders in the constitutional amendment process. If you recall, Third Way Alliance Kenya started, well, the first, in fact, we are the only party today that is talking about who started the constitutional amendment process in 2018 February. We went ahead and did Punguza Mizigo 1 that unfortunately collapsed at the county assembly. Then we started Punguza Mizigo 2, a revamped called Punguza Mizigo Kenya. And we want to thank the other proponents of constitutional amendment, the BBI, because they have seen it fit that Punguza Mizigo issues that we presented before them during the validation, the 15 issues, over 6 of them are in the Punguza Mizigo document. One of them, we were the first people to propose the increment of the equitable share to the counties to at least 35%, so that you can develop the counties. We were the party that also proposed the Ward Development Fund so that you can take development beyond the county headquarters. And because we understand that the issues of this country, the burden is greatest at the ward level. That is where the socio-economic rights have not been achieved. Schools, hospitals, water, electricity, all those must now be measured or implemented from bottom at the ward level. And we are glad BBI is thinking the same. We are glad that BBI is thinking about what we call enhancing the elusive gender rule. Third Way Alliance proposed a formula of how we are going to achieve that. So in essence, what we are saying, we are speaking the same language. That language is the language of national conversation. That now that we are engaging in this national conversation, and we appreciate what BBI has done, and also we thank them for having seen it fit that Punguza Mizigo is a document worthy of implementing by accommodating over half of what we had. That is very good. Now, sisi kama chama ambacho kinaongozwa na wanachama la baraza kuu la NEC, tumesema kwamba mazungumzo ya marekebisho ya katiba ni mazungumzo ya kitaifa, kwa sababu tunarekebisha katiba kwa niaba au kwa minajili ya mwananchi wa kawaida. Hatuwezi sema tunarekebisha katiba ya Third Way, ni katiba ya Kenya mwaka 2010 tunarekebisha. Wale wenzetu wanafanya vile vile. Na ukiangalia ile ripoti ya BBI, kuna mambo zaidi ya 5 ambayo tulipendekeza zikaidhinishwa na wananchi wa Kenya katika ripoti ya Punguza Mzigo au mswada Punguza Mzigo. Yale mambo yako pale. Mojawapo ikiwa kuongeza ile ugavi ambao unaenda katika serikali za ugatuzi kutoka asilimia 15 hadi asilimia 35. Tukasema kwamba lazima sasa tutumie wodi kama kiundo msingi cha maendeleo kupitia ile fund ambayo tunaita Ward Development Fund. Vile vile wale wamesema hivyo. Tukasema ile usawa wa jinsia katika bunge itekelezwe, kwa sababu wakina mama hawajafika pale. Wale vile vile wamesema vile. Ndio maana tunasema kwa sababu sisi mapendekezo yetu baadhi yao yanaambatana na yao, basi inamaanisha mazungumzo ya kitaifa kuhusu marekebisho ya katiba yashaanza rasmi. Na tunasema kwa yale ambayo tunaamini kama chama hayaja kuwa katika ile ripoti, sisi kama wanachama tutayasukuma, kwa sababu pia tunaamini kwamba hayo marekebisho ni muhimu zaidi. Mojawapo ikiwa ile pesa ambayo inatumika kuendeleza shughuli za bunge, lazima hiyo pesa iregeshwe chini. Kwa sasa chairman wangu ambaye ni mhasibu atatuambia kwamba sasa hivi ni bilioni 36. Sisi tumependekeza ile pesa irudi chini hadi bilioni 5. Haijalishi, tunaweza kuwa na wabunge hata 1000 Kenya hii. Tunaweza hata kuweka executive ikuwe watu 10, lakini ile pesa ambayo wanalipwa kama mishahara lazima izingatie uchumi wa Kenya. Na ndio maana sisi tunasema katika uchumi hii, ile mzigo mzito zaidi ambayo Wakenya wanabeba ni mzigo wa kijinsia na mzigo wa kiuchumi. Na ndio maana tukasema basi kama hayo ndio ya muhimu, wale wenzetu wa BBI washakubaliana na sisi wakachukua mapendekezo zaidi ya 5 zetu. Sasa haya ambayo yamebaki, tuzungumze kama wananchi, tuzungumze kama Wakenya, ili tunapokaribia marekebisho ya katiba tutakuwa